There's an account you've never opened. It doesn't show up in your banking app. There's no due date printed in red, but it charges every month with interest that no lender can replicate, because it's not financial interest. It's interest paid in time, in energy, in Sunday nights staring at the ceiling when everyone else is asleep. You have a salary, probably a salary most people in this country would consider stable: government job, corporate position, career with progression, health insurance, retirement plan, guaranteed raises. And yet, when the second week of the month hits, you feel like the money evaporated. It wasn't stolen, it didn't disappear by accident. You spent it, but you don't quite remember on what. Enough was left to avoid real hardship, but nothing that makes you feel like you moved forward. That's not carelessness. It's not a lack of budgeting apps. It's not because you haven't found the right financial system yet. It's because there's a debt that predates any bill, an emotional debt you took on years ago, probably before your first real paycheck. And until that account is opened, not at the bank, but inside you, no method will work, no goal will last, no month will end differently. I'm going to show you what that account is, where it came from, why it never shows up on your statements, and why it's the one thing that, once you understand it, will permanently change your relationship with money. But first, a warning. This is going to be uncomfortable, not because I'm going to teach you something complex, but because what I'm about to show you is almost too simple. And simple things, when they're true, cut deep. Ryan is 37. He works in local government, has been there for 7 years. Take home around $68,000 a year, rents an apartment, pays bills on time, rarely carries a balance past the grace period. Anyone looking from the outside would say Ryan is doing fine. Ryan has it together. But Ryan knows he doesn't have it together. Ryan knows that every first of the month is an anxiety ritual dressed up as routine. He opens his banking app, watches the balance drop, does a quick mental calculation, takes a breath, closes the app. Not because he doesn't want to know. It's because he already knows. And knowing, without being able to change anything, is one of the heaviest forms of suffering that exists. Ryan's problem isn't technical. He knows what compound interest is. He knows the minimum payment trap. He knows he should save before spending, not the other way around. He knows all of this. He learned it on YouTube, on Reddit threads, in a free course he started in 2022 and never finished. Ryan's problem is that he spends to regulate an emotional state he's never named. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called compensatory emotional regulation. The idea is simple. When an internal system is under chronic pressure, whether stress, boredom, a sense of being trapped, or frustration with the pace of your own life, the brain looks for escape valves that generate immediate relief: food, alcohol, entertainment. And in the case of the modern man with easy access to credit, consumption. I'm not talking about wealthy consumption, buying because you can. I'm talking about the consumption of the stable man who buys because he can't take it anymore, who clicks buy now in a moment when what he actually needed was an honest conversation with himself, who splits a purchase into installments not out of carelessness, but because that purchase was the only thing that day that felt like a genuine choice. Ryan doesn't buy for pleasure. Ryan buys to feel like he has control over something, because the rest of his life, the clock-in time, the hierarchy, the project that got killed without explanation, the merit that never becomes a promotion, none of that is his to control. But the click on the buy button, that one's his. For 30 seconds, that one is his. That's the mechanism. Simple, devastating, and completely invisible until you name it. The emotional debt has 3 layers, and each one feeds the next. The first is the identity debt. It appears when there's a gap, a distance, between who you are and who you think you should be by now. The man who should be further along in his career, who should have built more by this point, who looks at the friend who started the business, the colleague who got promoted last year, and feels a quiet sting that he quickly pushes down because adults don't compare. But that gap doesn't disappear when you push it down, it just goes under. And from there, it operates, sometimes as an impulsive purchase that compensates for the feeling of stagnation, sometimes as a paralysis that prevents real financial decisions, because any decision might confirm the fear that you're behind. Ryan has that layer. He took the government job because it was the right move. Stability was what everyone wanted. But 3 years in, when the stability actually arrived, he realized he'd confused safety with arrival, as if passing the exam was the final achievement, and the rest of life was just maintenance. The second layer is the meaning debt. It appears when the work that pays the bills doesn't carry enough significance. I'm not talking about life purpose, that word that became a coaching commodity. I'm talking about something simpler and heavier. The feeling that you spend most of your useful hours doing something that doesn't represent who you are. When work doesn't carry meaning, consumption tries to compensate. You buy the identity your job doesn't give you, the brand that says something about who you are, the trip you post, not because you loved it, but because the post proves your life has dimensions beyond bureaucracy, the premium subscription you use twice a month, but that makes you feel like you're the kind of person with taste. That's not weakness of character. It's what happens when a human being who needs meaning doesn't find meaning where he spends most of his time. Consumption becomes an attempt at narrative. You tell a story about who you are through what you spend. The third layer is the quietest. It's the future debt. It appears when, deep down, you don't actually believe your future will be different from your present. When the idea of saving runs into a thought you never say out loud, what's the point? What's the point if inflation eats it? What's the point if some unexpected expense is going to show up anyway? What's the point of planning if plans never work out? That skepticism isn't pessimism, it's protection. You stop expecting to avoid being disappointed, and then you stop acting. And money follows behavior. It leaves without direction because direction requires believing in a destination. Ryan has all 3 layers. Like most men who end up watching content like this, not by accident, but because something in him still hasn't settled that account with reality. There's a name for this state. Daniel Kahneman, psychologist and Nobel laureate in economics, spent decades studying how the human brain makes decisions under emotional pressure. He called it mental accounting, the process by which people create psychological categories for money that don't correspond to financial reality. You feel like paycheck money is different from bonus money. That saved money is different from available money. That credit card debt is less real than the cash in your account. These categories are fictions, but the brain treats them as truth, and it's inside those fictions that emotional debt operates without being seen. Ryan, for instance, has an unspoken rule. Overtime money is free. He can spend it guilt-free because it was above and beyond the contract. What he doesn't see is that overtime is time from his life, sold, and spending that money without direction doubles the cost. He paid with time and still built nothing with what he received. Knowledge doesn't change behavior. That's the truth that most financial content ignores. You can know everything about compound interest and keep using installment payments you shouldn't. You can rationally understand that you need an emergency fund and never have built one that lasted more than 3 months. You can make the spreadsheet, install the app, take the course, and on the 10th day of the following month, be in exactly the same place. Because financial behavior isn't controlled by the rational part of the brain. It's controlled by the limbic system, the part that processes emotion, memory, and threat response. And the limbic system doesn't read spreadsheets. It reads sensation. So the real question isn't, how do I organize my money? The real question is, what emotional state is this money trying to solve? Ryan, in a moment of honesty, said something that stayed with me. I spend when I feel small. I can't spend when I feel whole. That sentence is a complete diagnosis. When he feels small, compared, stagnant, invisible, he spends to reconstitute himself. When he feels whole, satisfied with what he did that day, with the person he's being, there's no trigger for impulsive spending. The work, then, isn't financial. It's about identity. It's learning to build a sense of wholeness that doesn't depend on consumption to exist. This is different from discipline. Discipline is willpower applied against the impulse. It works short-term, fails long-term. What I'm describing is deeper. Modifying the state that generates the impulse, not fighting the symptom, treating the cause. Before we go further, I need to show you something I built after understanding exactly what we're discussing here. It's called the Free Your Mind Kit, 3 tools that work together. The ebook is 35 pages of real psychological financial diagnosis, not budgeting tips, but a map of the invisible patterns that stall men with stable incomes. The Cost of Stability Calculator is an interactive tool. You put in your numbers, and it shows you the real cost of not acting, in wealth, in time, in freedom postponed. And the Free Your Mind series is 3 audio tracks, 7 to 12 minutes each, designed to listen to when you wake up or before you sleep, working on identity, value, and action where knowledge alone can't reach. The 3 complement each other. The ebook creates intellectual awareness, the calculator creates emotional awareness. The audios work on identity, not a course, no subscription, lifetime access, everything for less than $27. The link is in the description. When you're ready, back to it. So how do you start closing that account? First step, name the state. The next time you feel the urge to buy something unplanned, stop for 30 seconds and ask, what am I feeling right now? Not what you want to buy, what you're feeling. Frustration, boredom, the sense that today was a wasted day, envy, anger at something at work. This isn't meditation, it's diagnosis. You're trying to identify the state that consumption is trying to solve, because when you name the state, it loses power. The limbic system operates best in darkness. Light, even the light of an honest question, changes the equation. Second step, separate what's emergency from what's regulation. Emergency is when you need to spend because something external happened. Regulation is when you want to spend because something internal is out of balance. Both can involve the same product, but they have completely different causes, and only one of them should be addressed with money. Ryan learned over several months to make that distinction. Not perfectly, nobody does, but enough for the proportion to change. Before, 90% of unplanned spending was regulation disguised as necessity. Afterward, that number dropped in half. Not because he became more disciplined, but because he stopped lying to himself about the real cause. Third step, build a wholeness ritual that costs nothing. This will sound too simple to be serious, but that's exactly why it works. The brain doesn't need luxury to feel like you're moving forward. It needs evidence of agency, that you made an intentional decision about how to use your time or energy. It might be a walk, 30 minutes of reading, a call to someone you respect, a workout, an hour of focused work on a personal project. Anything that at the end makes you feel that that time was yours. Not your employer's, not the feeds, not anxieties. When Ryan started doing this, not every day, but with enough consistency, something unexpected happened. The compulsive spending didn't disappear overnight, but the moments that generated it started to shrink, because he was feeding the state that consumption was trying to imitate. And when the real thing exists, the imitation loses its appeal. But here's what most people do at this point, and it's where everything falls apart. They try to cut spending without understanding why they spend. They build a rigid budget that doesn't survive the first hard weekend. They adopt an austerity regime that is, in practice, another form of self-punishment. And when the regime fails, because it will fail, the conclusion is that they don't have enough willpower, that the problem is them, that they are the obstacle. They're not. The obstacle is an emotional system that was never addressed, a pattern that was useful at some point, maybe when consumption was the only available release valve, and that now runs on inertia without real need. When you address the emotional system, financial change doesn't require heroism. It starts to happen as the natural consequence of a different internal state. Ryan, 18 months after that conversation, has an emergency fund, small but real. He has a fund he calls his choice fund, not for retirement, not for investment, but to have the option to say no to a situation that doesn't make sense without panicking. What changed wasn't the salary, it wasn't the spreadsheet. What changed was the response to the internal state that used to command his behavior. The debt you can't see costs more than the one you owe, because the bill you pay and it disappears. The emotional debt you carry and it grows, and it charges in currencies no bank tracks: time, clarity, energy, self-respect. Closing that account is the most important work a man in your position can do. Not tomorrow, not when the salary increases, not when life is more settled, because a stable man's life rarely settles on its own. It settles when you decide that the invisible cost stopped being acceptable. If you made it here, you've already taken the first step. You named the problem. That's not small. Most people never do. Drop a word in the comments. Which of the 3 layers do you recognize most in yourself? Identity, meaning, or future? I want to know. Because when you name it for me, you're also naming it for yourself. And that's where it starts. If this landed for you, subscribe to the channel. Not because I have investment tips to give you, but because what you'll find here is a different way of thinking about money. One that starts where everyone else stops. The account is open. Now it's on you.